before it became a book, what was that moment when you realized that these two worlds actually collide? And was this moment born out of frustration or inspiration, or it was just some observation?
Yeah, that's a good and deep question there, Marut. But yeah, I think I was 27 when I had to kind of stop the fighting part of the martial arts. So I have about 100 full contact fights, and then the doctor said that I'm injured in a way that it's a risk for my kind of health to continue the fighting in, and so I had broken bones and all that. So I had to start from really from the bottom entry level jobs. So then I noticed that when I didn't get a job easily, so I got a job in sales, and then I noticed myself first that it was tough, which sales jobs are tough, and then I applied the same principles that I would have had in martial arts.
How do the leaders find the right balance, as you said, between being gentle and being firm?
Hmm. I think there's good to understand maybe kind of two different situations. There are problems that we need to be hard, so we need to fix the problems, and then there are humans that we need to be soft with. So the human interaction doesn't need to be harsh, even if the problem is big.
How do you balance this combat based philosophy versus collective collaborative practice?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. I mean, not many kind of look at it from those both sides. And I have to admit, when I first starting leading people, so I might have had too strong of the opponent mindset, where I noticed that I can read the emotions, and especially if somebody's afraid of me or scared of me, so I could use that information that's in a fight that you want to read the opponent in a way that when they are at their weakest side, so then you can attack on that side. So I unfortunately use that as well, and especially if you're doing sales or leading people, so you can even manipulate people from that side.
Do you think these values still hold in the flatter, more informal workspaces that we have become a part of? Is there a mindset clash that you worry about when you look at these parallels?
Hmm. There could be, and of course, you have this belt rank system, which then tells that if you have a white belt, so you are at the start of the beginner there, and you might have a blue belt, so you're a bit more advanced, and then you have a black belt, which is the highest, and then in black belt you have ranks. Basically, it's only about the form that when you kind of look together, and then when somebody's maybe teaching, coaching, or being the master, that you actually that values. Apart from that, you train together with everybody. You can learn with beginners. I love training with white belts because then I can take my speed down, and I don't need to try so hard, but I can still do the techniques very well.
Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Booknerds Author Agency. And I am Marut Bhardwaj, and we are here to explore what happens when the discipline of Dojo meets the complexities of the boardroom. I am a leadership consultant and executive coach. Also, I am the author of Leadership Unmasked, which is why I am the host today. And I have the honor of talking to Aslak De Silva, who is the author of the book, The Black Belt in Leadership 20 Tested Lessons from the Dojo to the Boardroom. So he's a business leader, martial artist, and a thinker who believes that true leadership, much like martial arts mastery, begins on the inside. So, this is a rare chance to see how Eastern philosophy and Western leadership collide and what emerges when you blend resilience and reflection. So, Slak, very welcome to the show today, and I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you so much, Marut. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm very honored to talk to you. I mean, your credentials are very strong as well. So
Thank you very much. So let me start by sharing that I read your book, was very, very happy with the way you have drawn the connection between martial arts and leadership. Uh, Deeply impressed, and also it resonates with me. And much as we've been talking about how this is all about discipline and how you bring the dojo to the boardroom, but also I still saw that you spoke about how to be gentle as you do that, how to find your focus as that happens, and have the presence, and that much aligns with my way of thinking of leadership. So I found this opportunity fantastic to talk to you. So if I may, shall I start with a
yes, please.
question? So my first question, of course, is that you draw this. really good parallel between the dojo and the boardroom. And before it became a book, what was that moment when you realized that these two worlds actually collide? And was this moment born out of frustration or inspiration, or it was just some observation?
Yeah, that's a good and deep question there, Marut. But yeah, I think I was 27 when I had to kind of stop the fighting part of the martial arts. So I have about 100 full contact fights, and then the doctor said that I'm injured in a way that it's a risk for my kind of health to continue the fighting in, and so I had broken bones and all that. So I had to start from really from the bottom entry level jobs. So then I noticed that when I didn't get a job easily, so I got a job in sales, and then I noticed myself first that it was tough, which sales jobs are tough, and then I applied the same principles that I would have had in martial arts. So you start with the white belt, you start learning, you're humble, just try to get better every day. And I saw that it brought success in the long term, not immediately, but in the long term. The same way when I got my first kind of leadership position. So I saw the same thing, that it wasn't easy in the beginning, but if I applied the kind of same principles that I've used in the martial arts dojo, so I started to get better, I started to get results, and I started to see the team succeed as well. So I think it kind of I was growing into it, so I was just more or less following the same principles that I had done before, and then just applying in the kind of the new setting or new environment that I was working with. So then I started to talk with other people as well and said that, hey, I saw this or that, or I became a keynote speaker. So I noticed that I prepare differently for the speeches than many others. Others were talking about stage fright, and I was saying that, yeah, I had that too, but not when I entered the stage. I had it before. So then I started noticing that people actually valued when I was explaining that how my approach is different from the normal approaches maybe in a business environment. And from there on, I started to building this and that, and I started hosting my own podcast around it. I was writing articles to Forbes as a business council member, and now latest the book. So I think it was kind of a gradual development with all these principles that I noticed that they seem to work for me, and I just wanted to share with others that how do I think maybe differently than many others, and if they can learn from that, I'm happy.
Thank you for sharing that. And sorry to hear about the tough phase you had after the injuries and how you learned from that. So that shows great resilience and the ability to learn from the challenges. So wonderful to hear about that. And then I would also want to understand a little more, and especially because this aligns with the way I focus on human leadership, that martial arts often emphasize on invisible work, the
Mm.
breathing, the repetitions, the practice that is required, the posture that you need to maintain. And in leadership, much of that invisible work is emotional and cognitive. So,
Mm.
what do you think leaders underestimate the most about this inner discipline typically?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times it's easy to get to knowledge of what you should do, and maybe it's harder then to be able to apply those things. And in martial arts as well. So I mean, if I draw those parallels, so when you start as a white belt, so maybe you dream yourself of having a black belt, but it's quite easy to understand that you're not there yet, and you need to kind of go through those steps. With leaders, I do see the same. So I mean that myself as well. I dream about kind of being a great leader and leading bigger companies into great success, and that's why I need to work on my insights first and my inner thinking a lot, so that okay, what would it require, what do I need to learn, what do I need to understand, but even more on like when I'm actually applying those principles in practice. So what happens, how did I behave? Thinking in martial arts, it's not about it. You can look at the best techniques on TV, but you cannot repeat them. And it's very simple to understand that you're not prepared for that yet. Your body, your mind is not there yet. But with leaders, we don't tend to think like this many times, or at least I've noticed that. I'm not sure if you noticed that as well. But even if you get the best advice, so it's not that easy to implement that in real life. And
Mm.
that's why you need to be honest to yourself, start building from yourself, and even have the will to become better, which often comes with when you learn from mistakes. You of course learn from successes as well, but you need to kind of focus on that. How did I behave at that time? Think through internally first, and then take a step forward. But if you're not honest to yourself about the things that you're doing, it's very hard to kind of change anything that's it's required for the leadership to lead better, in my opinion. At least I'm not sure if you have seen the same, or what's your thoughts, Marut, on that.
Absolutely, absolutely agree with you. That gap between knowing and doing is what we all need to address as leaders. Totally agree with you there. And you speak in the book about calm and composure. Uh, but today's leadership and the environment in which the leaders are operating is all about speed and noise. So, how do you reconcile the stillness of the dojo with the, let's say, the velocity of the corporate life?
Yeah, that's a tough one, a tough question there. But I mean, of course, we all aim for speed and we want to make quick and right decisions. But here I would again come to the same as with martial arts, that the speed that you are prepared for might be different that's required. And that the hard part is that you miss all the opportunities that you were not ready for. And when with the speed that the world is developing, with everything from artificial intelligence tools to everything that is required, everything immediately now and everywhere, so we tend to lose the focus and then we miss the opportunities. And as a leader, especially when we talk about leading humans, so if we are really blindfolded and cannot see what's happening, so then we are for sure going to the wrong direction. With luck, maybe it doesn't happen today, but it will happen in future. So therefore, I'm again advising us leaders to kind of have our grounds first and standing with our feet, and then see what we can cope with. And if the speed is very very hard or quick, so we just need to develop ourselves to be able to work with that. And that can cause us a lot of stress and can lead to burnout. Therefore, the kind of the balance between yourself and again and what you're doing is important. Therefore, I'm also emphasizing a lot of that if you are in a great physical condition, so that helps you to endure stress. But you need to sleep enough, you need to eat well, and you need to also be able to be composed in those situations when your stress comes high. And again, so that in a fight again, so the fighter who is frustrated will never win. Same goes with the leader, that if you kind of cannot control your frustration, you become angry or super stressed, that's the moment when you start losing. So I'm advising leaders to pay attention to those moments and take a step back. Even if you want to be quicker, you need to take a step back before you can kind of take the step forward when you can actually be in the same speed as is required.
True, completely agree with you there. And that brings me to the question, and that's a point I really loved in your book, was about the gentle strength. That's a beautifully created oxymoron, if I may say so. Gentle and strength are not normally things that we say together, but it makes perfect sense. But I want to understand that the leaders often have to make tough decisions and also unpopular decisions. They have to take hard decisions or stands based on what the organization or the goals require. And sometimes that can come across as not so gentle. And so, how do the leaders find the right balance, as you said, between being gentle and being firm?
Hmm. I think there's good to understand maybe kind of two different situations. There are problems that we need to be hard, so we need to fix the problems, and then there are humans that we need to be soft with. So the human interaction doesn't need to be harsh, even if the problem is big. And often, actually, then when you kind of understand that it's not, if you sometimes you say that don't shoot the messenger, or like it's not the team member's fault. So when you understand that we are interacting with humans and think of that, you can still behave well even if it's a hard decision. So I
Mm,
noticed this my first hand. So when I was first time laying off people, so I thought that I was communicating clearly. Then I took everybody one on one into a closed door room and talked with them. But I was very very harsh on the problem. Said that here's what we need to do. The company will not survive with this, so that's why you are getting laid off or fired there. And
mm,
then when I went back to the team that was there, so they were really afraid of me, and then we couldn't work together well anymore. They lost the trust in me. They thought that I don't care for them. Later on I learned that okay, that I need to still deal with the people as human beings, and still talk, even if the situation or the end outcome is the same. I can still look at their from their side as well and understand that they're also going through a rough path, and support the next step, and really try to think through before I make the decisions, that how will that impact or affect that person's life. And then
mm,
understand that in the conversation when we can still find this common ground, and then take step forward. And very often that's the last resort, the last conversation that we start thinking. We should just start thinking that before. So we need to be open and honest, give feedback and support. So I know many others as well said that the most important task for a leader is to make the team to succeed. And the only way we can make them succeed is to make them understand or help them understand how they can succeed. And the success is better often with our support than them doing alone. So when it starts starting from there, so that we can support the team members already before any problems occur, we can be very gentle, we can be very soft, and we can have great atmosphere and together take the steps forward. And when the problems arises, so we take the problem in a hard way. So I'm not saying that if there are hard situations that don't make any decisions, just on the contrary, I'm saying that at those moments we need to be able to make the decisions but still be soft with the people and treat them as human beings.
Mm. As they say, if you can do the hard or the difficult laying off or restructuring or giving tough feedback kind of work, and yet at the end of the day go and have a beer with your colleague after doing all that, that's when you're a really good leader, because you are finding just the right balance between the care and performance.
Yeah, very
Fantastic.
smartly put there. Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing that you mentioned in the book is the inner fight. And I know sales roles can be very challenging, leadership can be quite challenging as well. So, what are the challenges that you faced as a leader or as a salesperson in your work career, and how did your practice come to your rescue in those challenging moments?
Yeah, depends a lot on the culture that you have are born with. And I was born and raised in Finland, where people are tend to be humble. There even are sayings that don't shoot for the stars; you just should aim lower.
Mm,
And for especially for me, then when I was like thinking that okay, that can I succeed? So I had a lot of self doubt, a lot of self esteem problems. I thought that I need to be an expert before I can do anything. And especially in sales, you talk with people that are experts, and the buyers might be even way more in depth in the products and services that you're selling. Same with leadership, that you're often leading people who are really expert on that matter, that your subject matter that they are working with. So these kind of self-esteem problems that can actually do the right decision to understand, so they were tough for me to understand first. But then I thought, okay, that if I'm vulnerable in the situation and tell people that I might not know everything but I want to learn and I'm here to support. Same applies with sales as well. It doesn't mean that you need to know everything. You can honestly say that I don't know exactly what you're looking for. I like what we're doing here. Would there be some common ground that you would want to talk about? And
mm,
in leadership, especially, that if you're open and honest about what you know and what you don't know, and talk about even your goals together, that helps the team to understand that you're not trying to be everything for them. You're there to support, and their role is also stronger. So what I've seen then, maybe empowering people to make decisions, or trusting their expertise, so then they become actually better performers, and they're more happier in the workplaces when you give them trust on their expertise, and then you try to kind of fix the problems. So I always start with this kind of a white belt mindset, that I'm there to learn, I need to help them, but at the same time I try to kind of, I said that, smilingly pushing them to succeed, so that I can even ask their questions that, hey, since I don't know, would you explain? And then I can ask those maybe stupid questions that, hey, but what if you do this or that? So what would that make a difference? So I've been kind of trying to learn about asking the right questions, and being humble, and then study and value the experts, learn from them, talk with many people, and with that, so kind of I get more comprehensive understanding of what we're doing, and then to support the team also in a way that they never thought that I could support. Because the more people I talk with, so the more understanding I also gather, and often the understanding that I have gathered is different than anybody else in the company has, which then supports everybody in their next steps there.
yeah, yeah. So the right combination of authority, authenticity, and vulnerability, I think, does the trick.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, like leadership can be coming from the title that you have, so people have to listen to you. But
Mm,
in order to it work, so they need to accept you as a leader. So there's the other
yeah.
side of it. So with the humbleness, you can build that trust in the team, that they can start supporting you. They are not following you only because of the title.
Mm. So, the organization that I have been associated with over the last decade or so has done a research on leaders who are focused on performance versus leaders who are focused on people versus leaders who find the right balance of managing performance and taking care of people. And
Mm.
what they found was that the leaders who find the right balance managed to make multiple parameters for the employees jump 2 to 3 times above the bar. For example, people have a much better job satisfaction, they have a deeper sense of belonging with the organization, the stress levels come down drastically, and so on and so forth. So, most definitely, if the leader is authentic and vulnerable, the ability to say, I don't know, let's find out together or let's work towards it together, is really a huge strength that the leader can bring to the table. So, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
All right. And then a lovely 20 lessons that really encapsulate everything that a leader needs to learn. And I was just wondering that as you landed these lessons and as you put your inspiration together for these 20 lessons, was there one out of these 20 that leaders told you they find too challenging to apply, or that was really hard for the leaders to put into action?
Yeah, I think the kind of the most difficult, even for me, is to understand that you can be better every day. It's I mean, people run a marathon, and after they've done that, so they're happy and they said, I'm not going to run it anymore, where you should continue. So I mean, that's probably the hardest lesson of all, in a way, that okay, what, regardless of what you did yesterday, so how do you become better today, and how do you keep that up? And I'm saying that it's not about motivation, it's about discipline. So many times we ask ourselves in the morning that, am I motivated? What's my motivation towards work today? Whereas we should just, discipline comes with values, so we should set the values in a way that, okay, I want to be a better leader, that's what I'm here for. And that at the same time is probably the hardest thing, at least for me and many, when I talk about it. Okay, yeah, it's kind of, can be a fun ride, but it should be a fun path for life, and that's then the hard part, to kind of keep it up. In a way, we tend to kind of shift our focus, and we find some new kind of goals for life, and not to kind of push ourselves to be better. And that's kind of lifelong path, which do then in martial arts, in Japanese and Korean, means is that it's for your life, it's not just for any moment. So therefore, even if I had to stop fighting, so I'm still continuing training and living the same principles, even if I can physically perform the same way. But that's hard sometimes. It would be nice to kind of take it more easier, and not to push yourself to be better
Yeah.
every day. And yeah, so that, I think that's probably the hardest. It wasn't any single lesson from that side there in the book, but I mean, overall, I talk a lot about and write a lot about that. What does it require from yourself to be better every day?
Yeah, yeah. So to find that sense of discipline in you, as we say, the leaders typically start their day by creating a to-do list, and the invitation is instead to create a to-be list. So
Yeah,
every day, what is it that I want to be instead of what I want to do? Fantastic.
exactly.
So the next question I wanted to ask you was something that has always been on my mind. That when we talk about sports in general or martial arts in particular, it is all about the one-to-one combat, the mastery that you need, the sense of me in terms of winning or being better or being disciplined. But in organizations, it is often about teams, it is about
Mm.
collaboration, it is about finding the trust to be able to not perceive the other person as your opponent, instead look at them as your ally and work together towards the goal. So how do you balance this combat based philosophy versus collective collaborative practice?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. I mean, not many kind of look at it from those both sides. And I have to admit, when I first starting leading people, so I might have had too strong of the opponent mindset, where I noticed that I can read the emotions, and especially if somebody's afraid of me or scared of me, so I could use that information that's in a fight, that you want to read the opponent in a way that when they are at their weakest side, so then you can attack on that side. So I unfortunately use that as well, and especially if you're doing sales or leading people, so you can even manipulate people from that side. But what a lot of people don't maybe realize, that a lot of the martial arts training is done in a group, and often you're actually finding your friends there in the class and training with them. So it actually comes a lot from what with respect, and you need to follow orders from your master, and have the diligence and discipline there every day. And you train with the same people. You might go to train with another dojo to learn, and you're actually very humble, and it's a lot about human interaction. And then of course the end fight, in the full contact fight, you have one opponent, but the rest of the training, so maybe the majority of your time, you're training with somebody else, and there you learn these skills to kind of work together, and especially because you have to train really tough techniques with high, you use a lot of strength, so you need to actually be very careful that you don't injure your training partners, and you need to kind of honor them if they say that you're going too fast and everything. So it actually is a lot about the collaboration, and you become the best by the depending on who you train with. So therefore, you want to seek to kind of train with the best sparring partners, the best people in the world. And again, there you need to be very humble to ask that, can I train with you? And then kind of find the rhythm and the pace together to kind of succeed together. So actually, like I was saying, that a lot of the training is done as a group or with a team rather than individually, even though the fighting part is then done alone.
Mm. So this definitely calls for a certain level of consciousness or awareness of how you are shifting from the me sense to the we sense, while you still bring the discipline and the values that you have when you are talking about dojo or the mastery in combat scenarios.
For sure.
Fantastic. And that brings me to the next question, because you spoke about the respect and the discipline. Um, there is hierarchy in these games, right? In this sport there is
Mm.
hierarchy, there is a deep sense of respect for who's at which level, the belt levels and so on. And do you think these values still hold in the flatter, more informal workspaces that we have become a part of? Is there a mindset clash that you worry about when you look at these parallels?
Mm. There could be, and of course, you have this belt rank system, which then tells that if you have a white belt, so you are at the start of the beginner there, and you might have a blue belt, so you're a bit more advanced, and then you have a black belt, which is the highest, and then in black belt you have ranks. Basically, it's only about the form, that when you kind of look together, and then when somebody's maybe teaching, coaching, or being the master, that you actually that values. Apart from that, you train together with everybody. You can learn with beginners. I love training with white belts because then I can take my speed down, and I don't need to try so hard, but I can still do the techniques very well. So that has helped me. But for sure, there is a risk that if you only look at from that side, so the hierarchy, and especially myself, when I'm born in the northern Europe where everything is very flat. So I mean, the president of Finland can come to the same library and you can talk with that, or prime minister might come with you on a cycle tour or something. So it's very flat here, and we don't kind of the authority level is very low. So therefore, maybe that comes from, for me, from growing up in Finland, and so understanding from that side. So it's not causing a problem. But I do understand, my father's from Sri Lanka, so for instance, there the hierarchy is very old. Even the caste system, the old caste system, is there, where I need to understand that who talks to whom, and how will that impact. And in some organizations, hierarchies are still needed there, but I still believe that, like you were mentioning there as well, that the team members, their well-being, when it's good, so they provide better results, and if they are happy at work, so they are willing to put more effort, and they are maybe more focused on the work as well. So that has a huge impact on how you're succeeding together, when you kind of treat people as they are. Sometimes you still need the captain, you need somebody who's making all the decisions, but that doesn't require maybe hierarchical focus in that sense, or you don't need to always respect that. I value a lot about that kind of comment from anybody. I have used examples that when I was at the Nordic Business Forum, and we were doing webinars when COVID-19 hit. So my daughter, who was that time maybe less than 10 years old, she was telling me that when I'm on the camera, so I look like that I don't belong there. So she was coaching me when she was less than 10 years old, because she was used to watching all the TikToks and social medias. And so she knew what she was expecting. So when I took her advice, so I learned to look at the camera better, to smile more, and pay attention to these kind of small cues. So
Yeah.
I still believe that anybody can help you to become better, and anybody can help you to succeed. So don't be blindfolded because of hierarchical levels, or thinking that you're an expert and the other one is not.
Wonderful. So, what I hear is that respect is universal, no matter higher, lower, whatever. The point is to maintain that respect in all relationships and be open and ready to learn whatever comes your way.
Yeah, very
And
true.
you also mentioned something very interesting. You say in the book that one should always keep progress over perfection. And I completely agree with that. I think we are typically in business scenarios very wedded to outcomes, results, goals, and do not celebrate the progress or the path to the goal enough to
Mm.
motivate people impactfully. So I am in complete agreement there that it is important to keep progress over perfection. But the question that begs is, how do you measure yourself to see whether you are progressing? So you may not have
Mm.
become perfect, but have I progressed? Am I evolving as a leader, or am I simply repeating myself without being conscious of it?
Yeah. Of course, sometimes you need to be kind of aiming for perfection. So I mean, it's not to kind of lower the quality, but then the question is that if I focus still more and not do anything. So especially if you have a product launch or you're gonna do campaigns or you wanna, I don't know, host a podcast. So you just have to go there and just try it out, and with experience you become better. So progress can be measured many ways. So you can look at again your history, that what you were doing, you can maybe see what you have learned. And I think that is what you were saying, that we should celebrate that. So we should, I don't, depends on the company, but maybe once in quarter, kind of look back and say, talk about what we learned, what are we doing better now than before, rather than focus on the mistakes that we did. And I think that's of course depending on the work culture and the company, but many times we tend to raise up the mistakes and talk about those things rather than the progress. And with the progress, then we'll all learn that, because like it requires input from everybody. So when we learn that what was the progress and what was the outcome of it because we did it better, and what did we learn, it means also that we can, like in the kaizen philosophy from Japan, so that we can still improve that and try to be better. And that brings the positive spiral, so that everybody starts to learn together. I think I would tie there a bit on the vision side as well, that when companies, they tend to have a vision, so the progress is like taking steps towards the vision. You probably never reach the vision, but the direction should be there,
Yeah.
rather than thinking that since this doesn't fully fit the vision today, we're not there yet, so we should not stop at least because of that. We should just take a step forward. Every day we take steps forward, so the closer to the vision we are.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That sounds lovely. So, my last question. Um, so, you have 20 lessons in the book. If you were to write the 21st lesson,
Mm.
what would that be?
That's a tough one. Yeah, I have written down thoughts that I kind of missed there, and thinking, what could the exact lesson be. I think I would write more still on the preparation part. So I mean, um, the lessons are not that straightforward, that if you read any kind of other business or leadership book, so maybe the theme is the same, but they are not like that emotional intelligence lesson one or something. So they are more diverse in that and more comprehensive. So but I would write more about the preparation. What does it mean to kind of be prepared just before something important happens? And I mean,
Mm,
that's something that it kind of ties into the work life balance, and it ties into the how you kind of lead your life. I've written a Forbes article about tetrising your life into balance, where you kind of talk about these kind of blocks that are important in your life, that you have family and you have your health, or you have your friends and you have your work, so that you need all of these, and they don't always come at the right time in the kind of in your situation, but how to prepare yourself for that. So maybe it comes more to the adaptability that many talk about, that leaders, we need to be more adaptable today than ever before, but how to prepare for that, that you are kind of every day working towards it to become better, but you are constantly ready. As an example, that the way I start every day is that I do some meditation or yoga kind of exercises, and I start learning something new every day. So I'm listening to podcasts, reading books or something, so that I check my body and mind every morning, that how they are feeling. And then when I get to kind of work, so already I have used my mind, so I don't come tired to the office and think that, okay, what should I do? I'm already kind of warmed up and ready to go, and kind of taking every challenge that comes, I'm ready. And so that's maybe something that I would focus on. So okay, how to build that kind of a positive everyday step forward mindset, and how to train for that, that when whatever happens, you're ready.
fantastic. Thank you so much, Aslak. It was a pleasure listening to you and your wonderful thoughts around leadership, around the sense of respect, discipline, values. An amazing set of lessons for our listeners. Thank you very much for joining us today for this session. And listeners, invite you to take a look at Amazon to pick up the book, Black Belt in Leadership, 20 points to cover, 20 lessons there. And while you're at it, you can pick up Leadership Unmasked as well, which is my book. So there is a lot to learn between those two books. I invite you to take the opportunity and add to your leadership repertoire. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marut, for this great conversation. And I also advise to read Marut's book as well. So I think it's a great combination from understanding from two different sides of leadership.